Okay. I'm up and running. All right. This is all arranged. This is where the chat is. Okay. This is Nicole Howard Show. Oh, I should probably have this all adjusted. Um. Yeah. So, third live broadcast. Third stream live. Seventh broadcast. This will all get, like I have said. If you've been watching me, I am going to have this eventually. I hope to have a lot of followers. And in order to go back and watch ones you missed, I have an account. And in the meantime, oh, I didn't do my thing, my thumbnail. Oh no, I forgot about that. I wonder if I can add that. I don't think I can. Good job. I forgot to add my thumbnail. That's not the end of the world. What was I thinking? I didn't even notice that button. See, this is so complicated. I guess I could stop and start, but then, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Wasn't thinking. Well, a couple of my posts don't have a thumbnail either. That's the intro where it shows, hey, this is my, it opens up with the Nicole Howard Show, blah, blah, blah. So I did not attach it to this. So it just starts when the broadcast started. Not a big deal. I'm already into it. It only affects you if you are waiting to watch this live, so I need to let it go. I'm a perfectionist about some things, as you can tell, and I do obsess about stuff. Like, yeah. Like something will be something will be moved. Like there's a dent in my refrigerator. I obsessed, as far as obsessed, talked about it, and I'm finally have stopped bringing it up every day, but probably for a week straight because I'd like to know how that happened. I'm the only one that comes in my apartment, other than my cat. Uh, Anytime anybody else comes in, I'm here. So the fact that there's a dent in it, and it's not something that I could have done while vacuuming. I vacuum every Sunday. I've tried to recreate it, and I'm like, there's no way that this could be done uh, by accident. It's just the metal is way too solid. You can't. And plus the location where it fell is, oh my God, it is backwards. Right there. It's very curious. I want to know how my refrigerator got dented. It was definitely not there. The refrigerator is like 2 years old when I bought it. It wasn't there 2 months ago, and now there's a dent. So somebody came into my place when I wasn't home, and somehow, whatever they were doing, bashed something into it. That disturbs me. So yeah, I think anyone would probably obsess about that a little bit. And for a long time, if you followed this, I live out in the country. I live next to my family. Uh, Up until 5 years ago, it was just me up here. My family lived down at their house on the lake, and it was real quiet up here. Then they ended up selling their house, splitting off the 10 acres, and creating two plots of land so that the house is somebody else now. We kept the address, kept the facilities up here, the horse barns, all that, and then they finally built their own house up here. But while they were building that house, they were right next door for a year. And at one point, my mom had to live in a big, huge motorhome. It was a nice one, but it was a motorhome with all her animals. And then, and my dad, he tried doing it, but it was just too crowded with 2 humans, 3 dogs, and 3 cats, and occasionally a fourth dog. Oh, maybe a fifth if my sister dropped them off. Anyway, so he was living in the motorcycle barn, which is attached to the horse barn. This where I'm living is next to those barns. And I have fields and it's real pretty. And then woods and lake. And in any case, and then they got their house built. And so, oh, well, then they built an apartment and moved into that next door to here. And so they were here all, we were in close proximity to each other. And they had to use my laundry room while this was all going on for a couple of years. So there was always somebody back there doing laundry at any time of the day. And then, yeah. So I got used to things being kind of like what it was like when I was growing up. I have to be appreciative because I am grateful that they have given me many times a place to live and helped me with so many things. I pay rent. This is a whole separate. I'm a tenant technically nowadays, but I'm talking years ago. They've and they still help me with um, being part of my life and so they built their house. But next door, where they were living, they've got someone living there now who insisted on having. I've said this the other day, a washer and dryer. So now that's in my garage. So there's somebody doing laundry now, again, all the time, whenever they feel like it. I was like, I can't escape it. I do laundry on the weekend. I do maybe one load a week, unless I'm doing sheets and towels, maybe two, three. Uh, I don't know how some people could need to do 10 loads of laundry in a week for one person. It's shocking that this person does. And I don't want to say too much because if they ever find this podcast, I don't want to start a fight. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that subject. But I understand now when you watch these shows what landlords go through with tenants. I knew there would be some drama, and there already is. And I've been a tenant elsewhere, and I know I was a pain in the ass at times, but for the most part, I lived at this place in Traverse that was right on Boardman Lake. It was great. And then one of the people on the first, I was on the second floor, on the first floor, caught their kitchen on fire. I remember sitting there hearing the alarms go off and thinking, uh, is that somebody's alarm clock? What is that noise? And then it dawned on me it was the smoke detectors. And I was like, oh my God. And I looked out in the little peephole and the whole hallway was full of smoke. It was like, it's time to evacuate. Grabbed one of my two cats because the one hid. And when I finally got outside, I, of course, I was like, my cat's still in there. And I gave him the key. I'm like, and they were going to go do a check on every apartment. And I'm like, well, if you see my cat, grab him. And here's my key. Well, do you think the fire department used the key? Of course not. They kicked the door in. And I said, well, if you kick the door in, of course he's going to hide even more, even if he was out and about. So they never got the cat. He was fine. He's back in the bedroom. I don't have the other cat anymore. That was one of my Bengals. And anyway, that door remained screwed up till the day I moved out a year later. Never fixed it. And prior to that incident, all they did was they put a little block of wood so that the deadbolt would latch and catch. That was their solution, the landlords. Prior to that, there was something wrong with I ended up always having to use the deadbolt because the other part you locked would just randomly not unlock. And sometimes you'd get locked either out of your apartment, or one time I got locked in the apartment and couldn't get out. So I had to call, and their son, who maintained things, had to climb up a ladder and through my window and take a knife in order to get me out. And I said, well, I could have done that. Which I did after that, have to do multiple times until they finally put a new handle on the door. But then the fire department thing happened. So, yeah. And then I did, when I moved out of there, I have some damage. And this is back to my drinking days. Not that that's a defense, but and so when they presented the bill to me, on the bill I noticed the door, and I said, whoa, 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 that's not mine. I did not kick the door in. I assure you, it wasn't me. Um, yeah, fun times. So, and then I know of people that have these buildings downstate where they've got like, I don't know, 3 buildings, each with 20, 30 apartments, and they're like, they're never there, and they act like it's not a big deal. And I'm thinking, must be the worst landlord ever. You're not telling me everything, because there's no way you can run all these apartments without being there. In fact, I've mentioned that show Only Murders in the Building, and where I've gotten some podcast ideas. Uh, the one gal who was the president of the building talked about all the things. Now, this is a high class place that you have to keep things maintained and answer your demands and requests, and she does. Um, yeah, it's a lot of work to maintain any sort of places that you're running, because you've got people depending on you to do stuff, but you don't always have the power to do unless you want to pay for it yourself. And sometimes even if you pay for stuff yourself and it's not exactly what the person that owns the building would have done, then they still will stick you with the bill on stuff to get it properly fixed with the way they would have fixed it. So there's all kinds of um, things you gotta, hurdles you gotta jump before you do certain things. So yeah, I will say renting, the one nice thing about it, I used to own my own house. You don't have to deal with maintaining, shoveling necessarily, maybe a little bit, depending on what the place does. But you don't have to plow your own driveway. That should be maintained by places. Um, I'm, like I said, out in the middle of the country, and we have a private road, so that is all privately maintained. The county doesn't. We do. And with big tractors, Kubotas, that you cannot plow this road. If you try and plow the road, it doesn't go well. It has to be snowblowed with a big, huge snowblower the width of a truck. But yeah, there are benefits to renting, but it isn't going towards anything. You're just paying to live there. Whereas if you own, it's going towards something, which is when I first started thinking years ago about moving out. Um, that was what my dad had pushed. He said, "Don't rent. You should, your money's not going towards anything. You should buy something, and then it's going towards, and it's an investment." And I said, "Okay, that sounds like a good idea." Having never rented ever, other than living with my parents, which I didn't exactly pay rent at that time. I was just out of high school, and maybe a couple more years there I lived, and then I went and bought a house down in Traverse City, and yeah, I was not ready to own my own house. Nope, 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 nope. Not just because of those little things, but it ended up in the long run being too expensive, and there was a little bit of finagling that went on when I got the loan, that they based my income on having a roommate, and that roommate's contribution to living there would be kind of like my income. Um, but technically it wasn't, because that's only if you have that roommate, and I didn't always have a roommate. And some of the times when I'd get one, that roommate could only afford to pay like half the rent. So yeah, it was. I should never have bought the house. I should never bought the house. But I learned a lot. Um, and then I bounced around at places in Traverse City, living at different apartments and stuff, and renting rooms. I somehow ended up living with guys a lot. This one house I lived at, I had 3 guy roommates. The one guy we never saw, he's always at his girlfriend's. I don't even know why he had the room. He was never there. Uh, Lived with another friend. I'm just on the edge of town. And again, him and 2 other guys. It's like, what is that? And always, yeah, just, I don't know. I was just one of the tenants there. And then I've lived with girls. And I'll tell you what, it's easier to live with guys if you're a girl, because I fought with all the girls. They get into your clothes, and things get them. Sometimes you get emotional, and one of the girls starts dating your boyfriend's roommate, and then that gets all hot because we're all at the one house the same night, and the fighting that went on was just not worth it. And these were really good friends. We worked it out. But yeah, it was easier to live with guys. Although, ironically, the one did stake some of my clothes. In fact, he took my moon boots. I came home one day, and he comes in and he goes, "Here's your pink tank top." I said, "I'm sorry, why do you have this? Did you let a girl wear this?" He said, "No, I wore it to the bar last night." I thought, "Why did you?" And he wasn't bi or anything. I said, "Why did you wear my hot pink tank top to the bar?" Because I thought I'd do something for shock value, and it got him Uh, we got him attention. I said, "Is that why I heard all that noise in your room last night? Two other people in the room with him all night?" He goes, "Yeah, it was a real hit." I said, "Yeah, you can go wash that tank top now." But yeah, he also took my moon boots, which I got another pair eventually for Christmas. Those are my closet. Not everybody's supportive of moon boots. And these are not quite the 80s ones. These are big, sparkly, glittery. I'll have to post some when I get this Instagram and everything. Uh, I mean, I have an Instagram. I'm going to post some of the attachments to it and email and everything. But I got to put photos on it. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to do all this at once and juggle. And, yeah, but they're cool moon boots. And they're very comfortable. And they're very warm in the winter. They are hard to drive in, though, because they're so wide that sometimes when you put your foot on the gas pedal, you hit the brake pedal. So they're not the smartest thing to drive in. I can definitely say that. But as a passenger, they're great. Yeah. Mm. I might be getting a little too old for stuff like that, but then again, you know what? Sometimes you see people wearing things, it's like, oh, she's too old for that. Or, yeah. I think, though, there's like a line. I think you should still have fun with clothes and not let yourself turn in. Because when I see people that are just dressed boring and it's like, oh, she's dressed for her age, it's kind of like, it's depressing a little bit. I mean, it's okay. It's not every day you have to get all done up, but there's some people that their whole wardrobe's khaki and gray, and maybe some blacks. And I think it's good to have fun with it and do some of the stuff. And I think actually now, I mean, 30, 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40, and so on and so forth. I think you can get away with stuff that you 30 years ago couldn't have gotten away with clothing choices and wearing stuff that's a little younger than your actual age. I mean, so I think I could pull off wearing something like that still, as long as I wear an outfit that goes with it. Yeah, it's all about matching things. And again, this podcast isn't about fashion, but hey, we can talk about it. Oh man, um, popped a nail off. You know, I don't know what's going on, but I have another thing that I do that is peculiar to some people, but I don't care. I've noticed, I don't know if you've ever noticed, that sometimes you'll get a product, and then the next time you buy it, you're like, this isn't the same as I remember. And you wonder, is this not a good batch? Or was the last batch not a good batch? Or did you get the right thing? And then you'll buy it again, and it's like, oh, well, this one's good. I discovered that with like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fiber One bars. Uh, they didn't always taste the same. And then I finally figured out you can tell where things are manufactured based on their expiration date because it'll be printed with a different code, which is representing the factory it was made in. And Cinnamon Toast Crunch, several of the factories, they don't, that it's old machines, they don't put enough cinnamon and sugar on it. It's just not as good. And you find these chunks of condensed, uh, big chunks of cinnamon and sugar that have solidified, and I've about busted a tooth. If I have cracked a tooth on one of those once, and and it's like, what's up with this fact? Anyway, the best one is the family size boxes, but they have to have a coat on top. And I noticed with the Fiber One, that's kind of a mystery I'm trying to figure out. Still, the 10 pack are the best. The 5 packs suck. And so with nail glue, I noticed I've always used this one brand of Kiss Precision, and I always got it at Rite Aid. I absolutely loved Rite Aid, and after there's no more, they are no more, and so I'm like, well, this is a pretty common glue product, so I just ordered it on Amazon, because I checked and I noticed and I figured this out when it was because a couple times I would get it at Rite Aid, and it was like the glue sucked, and I realized that some of them didn't have a little stamp of numbers on the bottom of the tube. The one with the stamp of numbers was awesome. The one without the stamp of numbers sucked. And everywhere in town, after I had to find it elsewhere, didn't have the little stamp. So I ordered it from Amazon. And the first one came, and I was like, yes, it's got a stamp. It's the right stuff. So I ordered 3 more tubes. Didn't have a stamp. So then I ordered one tube. The only way you can get it with the little stamp, and it's the good stuff, is if you order it individually at a time. It comes from a different location, apparently, if you order one at a time. And even that doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to reorder it, but you have to go in or reorder it from the site. You can't just say reorder that item or you'll get the same thing. I know this all sounds nuts, but I want what I paid for. I did it again. I have to glue this nail back on. In any case, so I just don't understand what happened to quality control with all these products. One product to the next should be pretty much the same. I mean, there's going to be some subtleties, but it shouldn't be dramatic enough that you notice with like a cereal or glue. Um, the one factory must have put a larger ratio of super glue or whatever compounds make it stick better in the one version versus the one without the little numbers. So, yeah. Now I'm gonna get you guys all thinking this is some people I tell this to, they're like, yeah, okay. Although the people at the grocery store appreciate when I tell them this. They're like, wow, I never thought about that. That explains a lot. And now they started doing it too, the gals that work there. Which, for the record, I know I'm very chatty. Everywhere I go, I end up, I've got friends at the gas station, got friends at the grocery store, and at the feed place, and some of them have my number memorized because I'll call and I'll be like, before I drive over there, could you check something? And I'm very appreciative. I'm not one of those pain in the butt people. And I was kind of late on Wednesday, and I had a hunch that they'd be like, "Where were you?" And I walked in. They go, "We were worried about you. You're late." I was. I was an hour later than my normal Wednesday night run in to the grocery store. I thought it was nice. And it's nice to, you know what, people like, working at the grocery stores and other odd end jobs. That's a lot of work. I mean, standing all day like that and dealing. The biggest thing is customers. I've watched and sat there, watched customers just give such whatever. The customer's having a bad day, maybe. I don't know. They treat sometimes people that are in those types of jobs like crap. And I've worked goofball jobs where I've been treated like crap, and you gotta take it sometimes. Uh, and it's just not very cool. Should always be appreciative to everybody, whatever their job is. And then I've had the people working at the store be complete a-holes, big time. And I after I got myself sober and cleaned up my act, I was at the store once with my mom, and the gal checking us out just was everything. I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" And she's like, "Fine." And it's just she had an attitude, and I noticed my mom kept looking at me. And afterwards, I said, "Why did you just keep staring at me?" She goes, "I was waiting for the explosion to come out of you." I said, "Yeah, I wanted to explode, but from what I learned in getting sober is if I do something like that, I'd have to go back and find her and apologize to make things right." And I don't know what kind of day she was having. She obviously wasn't mad at me. She was having her own issues. And she just took it out on probably every single person she dealt with that day. She just wasn't in the mood. We've all been that way. Sometimes you can hold it in, and sometimes you just can't. And she was having one of those days. So it doesn't mean I don't break my own rules and snap sometimes. Especially, I used to be really bad about driving. I mean, my horn was used. There's a horn in a car for a reason. It's to use it. So when you're sitting there at the light and the light turns green, you have, in my opinion, a 4 second rule. You don't go, you're getting a little tap. You still sit there, then you're getting honked at. I expect you. I got honked at the other day because I wasn't paying attention, and I said thank you and waved because I was the one not paying attention. That's what it's for, to get people, you know. Or if somebody's about to hit something, it's there for safety. In any case, I used to use the horn a little too much though, for maybe anger issues, and so I've worked on that. But I still, from time to time, I may hold on that horn a little too long. Work in progress, right? I'm admitting it though. What's going on right now? Hopefully, right now today, I don't know if you guys like Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory's on in the background. It's the episode where they're down trying to find signs of uh, dark matter in coal mines, and they're doing a practice run down in the steam vent shafts in this underneath Caltech University, and while sitting there two of the biggest rats you've ever seen come out behind Raj. And, and I'm sure he probably in the scene while filming could feel their little whiskers, which I like rats. Um, well, tame ones. These are actually the most realistically sewer rat like rats I've ever seen that are domesticated ever on any show. Whoever bred them did a great job. Sheldon took off the moment he saw them and left Raj down there, but I'm laughing at this scene because that would be pretty startling. Yeah, I don't know how they managed to get those rats that big, but they did. It would be a very. I would be filming that scene having a blast because I think they're great. Um. Anyway, back to my conversation. So today, not a ton going on. Gosh, I just keep dropping this. Sorry. Mm. Other than I'm just trying to work and keep going and what's going on in the world today. I went on a little tangent about the moon yesterday. Um, that's where I was going is we don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow's October 1st. Hopefully, there's no shutdown. We don't want to have a shutdown. I'm not real happy with the fact that, like I said, I'm a Trump supporter, but I don't like everything about him. I think he's getting a little distracted on some issues, and I don't enjoy it, and just immature. You know, I'm gonna give him support on a lot of stuff I like about him being transparent, but do not like some of the juvenile posts he puts on True Social. You know, with editing and putting a hat on somebody. I think it's just not very presidential. That's all. If somebody else had done it, it'd be hilarious, but not coming from him. Um, or putting in the row of presidential pictures, he put between his two pictures auto pen, which yeah, that thing did play a big part in the presidency for the last president, but I kind of still think, yeah, it's a little petty. Um, but I want to keep, and I know it's not all up to him to keep this things running, but I think that um, he sure could have pushed for it more. I remember his first term when Pelosi and all of them were going to go to, which the Democrats are ready to go to a winery outing in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This whole thing was going on again. 4 years, 8 years. Wait, might have been 8 years ago. And they were going to Florida for something, and he grounded the jet, turned the buses around, and said, "Get back. Do not. You're not going on this trip, and get this vote passed. You're not going to go play while everybody sits in and doesn't get paid. Now, come on. That, I like that attitude and him being proactive like that. He doesn't seem to have that sort of attitude this time around. So I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so October, I feel like summer came and went. It just went so fast. So again, I'm gonna start doing eventually as I get more people. Hey, look, I have a viewer. Um, get this thing start rolling it out. I'm gonna have hopefully an hour long podcast and an organized subject matter here. But hopefully there's people to actually talk to, chatting with me. Right now, there's nobody chatting with me. I'd like to be able to actually take callers too. That would be nice. Once I figure out how to even add that feature. I'm still irritated that I didn't put my preview thumbnail up. But what can you do? Oh, and it doesn't show the chats from the last time I was on. That'd be kind of nice to keep. There's probably a way to save it. Oh, look, there's fans and everything. Yeah, like I said, I'm just learning this. Thank you for watching. Um, oops. I hit my busy key button. No, don't turn that on. Cheesy crazy. I don't know what anyway. I'm just seeing what, well. My chat works, that's all I know. I'm gonna end this here, wrap it up. Thank you, people watching. Again, this is kind of rambling. I'm getting my stride here. I'm gonna post this still, even though it's pretty rough. But this is how I am. It'll get better as there's viewers and we can have conversation. I will enjoy that. Boy, doing two things at once though, that'll be fun to watch. Mm-hmm. All right, let me see how I wrap this thing up. Thank you very much. You guys have a good one. Oh yeah, there's two different ones running here. I have a recording one and a streaming one, so I'm watching both buttons. And a smudge on here. I don't know how I did that. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good one.